Hi, before the video starts, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for for being here. What has happened over the last week is a little insane. When I saw that thumbnail, it was hard for me to believe what was happening, and seeing Cuba react to my stuff is insane, and especially asking to subscribe, and then you did, and you're all here and you're leaving all these very nice comments. It's absolutely crazy. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming here, and thank you to Captain Cuba especially. Of course, I said thank you a million times, and I will say it a million more if I have to, because it's just crazy. I have a lot of cool ideas and plans, so thank you everyone for sticking around, and I hope I will I hope I managed to continue entertaining you guys. Thank you again and enjoy the video.
You will never be the ruler of Olympus. The cycle ends here.
Were you killed?
Sadly, yes. But I lived.
Hello, welcome to another page of the Midgard Chronicle, and let's set the Chronicle aside for a moment because we need to address the ancient texts, the time before Boy, the time before the Beard, the time before Midgard. We need to look back at the Ghost of Sparta's years in Greece, because we're tackling the topic of the death of Kratos. The man on the mural remains the biggest mystery of God of War 2018, and while there are a lot of theories about who this person is, it has mainly been agreed that it's not Kratos. However, the possibility of Kratos dying still remains in our minds. Well, maybe not yours specifically, but it does in mine. People bring up a lot of arguments for why Kratos won't die, such as he's too popular to be killed off, he is arguably PlayStation's most popular mascot, and that no one would buy a game without Kratos in it. And while these are valid arguments, I can dispute probably the most popular argument, that being that Kratos already died so many times he'll just come back. Fair, but what if I told you that Kratos never actually died? I mean, he did die, but he didn't die, right? And you can say, one, yes, I know you'd say that because I read the title of this video, and two, what are you talking about? Didn't you see this and this and this? To which I'd say, yeah, I did. It's on the thumbnail. But my point is, he didn't really... But didn't you see? Shut up! Let me make my point! So, I'm saying Kratos never actually died. Well, he did, but he never got through the whole official process of becoming dead irreversibly. In order for this to make sense, I'll need to explain the entire process of dying in the God of War universe. What you need to know about death in this series is that it's A, very complicated, and B, very inconsistent. Pretty much every game has a different way of showing death and what happens to a person in the afterlife, but I think accidentally, these different ways fit together really well and make the whole process clearer. This is the definitive, indisputable, complete process of dying in God of War's Greece. When a person dies, their body is taken by the arms of Hades and carried from their living realm to the underworld. Then a person falls down, at which point Karen transports them... At which point the river Styx carries them to the three judges, who pick where the soul of the person goes, Elysium, Tartarus, or the regular Hades. So, in a way, a person dies twice. Once on Earth, which sends them to Hades, and again in the underworld, when the judges pick their resting place. And that's it, the person's dead. Now, it's important to note that the soul separates the body only after the judges have made their call, so if someone manages to escape Hades before that point, hint hint, or only after dying the first time, they're not truly dead, since their body and soul are still intact and they can still exist in the world of the living. Keeping all that in mind, I want to quickly go through every time Kratos died and show that he in fact didn't. Oh, and before we start, it's important to note that in Greek mythology and the God of War universe, an alive person can enter and leave Hades with no problem, so Kratos entering Hades in Chains of Olympus and God of War 2 doesn't really count because he never died but just got there through the big holes in the ground. Same applies for Helheim, by the way. God of War 1. Kratos doesn't even reach Styx because of conveniently placed bones and the boat captain. He wasn't judged, so he didn't die. Moving on, God of War 2. Kratos doesn't even reach Hades this time. His mortal wound is stitched in the limbo between Earth and the underworld, so he doesn't die. Next, God of War 3, and the presentation is a little confusing here, but Kratos never actually dies here, not even a mortal death. Yeah, he falls all the way from the peak of Olympus to Styx, but we never see him die, and I mean, he's a demigod. He can survive a little fall. Even when he finally does reach the judges, they're like, bruh, you're not even dead, go away. So yeah, not dead. Now, this one's confusing. Fear Zeus snaps Kratos' neck, but he just goes into his psyche? Did he die or no? The answer is no, because Zeus says this.
Why won't you die? Die!
So, my assumption is Fear Zeus' power is to kill a person through making them fear too much. But the power of hope keeps Kratos alive, so no, he doesn't die here. So, we've come to the big one. Did Kratos die after stabbing himself? Now, that's a tough one. I think you figured this one out. So, now that I've proved that Kratos never really actually properly died, what does it mean? Well, the most important takeaway is that Kratos dying again would have much more significant ramifications than we think. The Norse dying system works very differently from the Greek one. If you end up in hell, you lose your body pretty much instantly, judging by all the souls who didn't even make their way to the Bridge of the Damned yet. It's also important to remember that a soul in Norse myth separates into several parts, which obviously makes it much harder to put the soul back together and revive a body. If you end up in Valhalla, which, let's be honest, is much more probable for Kratos, things are even more complicated. We don't know what happens to a warrior when he gets to the halls of Valhalla, but from our first look at the Einherjar, we see that they are gray like zombies, so even though they still possess their bodies, they're clearly still dead, which isn't great for Kratos either. So, in both cases, it would be much harder for him to come back to life. What makes things even more complicated is that if Kratos dies during the game, it will most likely be at the very end, after Ragnarok had already happened, in which case, Hell and Valhalla simply don't exist anymore, they've been destroyed, not to mention the Valkyries. Will they be busy sorting through the dead during Ragnarok, which is unlikely, or fighting, and so will they even be alive? And so, where does Kratos' soul go? Nowhere? Like those killed by the Soul Eater?
If that kills us, that's it. No Valhalla, no hell, no afterlife, ever.
Higher plane of existence? Alright, that's an interesting thought actually, but that's a little out there. In any case, if he dies after Ragnarok, Kratos' death would seem pretty permanent. But then I remembered that Kratos didn't die at the end of God of War 3 because he was apparently cursed not to die. So if he is still cursed, can he die at all? We know he can die in 2018. Did the curse lift? Or no? What about the resurrection stones? What's the point of this video then? What's the point of anything? Why are we here? What are we doing? Can Kratos die or no? I hope with this video I managed to show that Kratos dying in God of War Ragnarok can be a bigger deal than most people think, and potentially, his death could be final and permanent. So the question is most likely whether Santa Monica and Sony are willing to let go of such a popular character. Honestly, if it's the best thing for the story, I think Sony could let it happen. Even without Kratos, the God of War brand is extremely popular, and although if they make a potential God of Trickery or something like that, it wouldn't be as big, the franchise's popularity and, more importantly, trust in Santa Monica Studio could make such a significant death turn out for the better in the long run. What do you think about this? Is it likely enough for Kratos to die with finality? Would Santa Monica dare to do it? Really interested to see how split the opinions on this one are going to be. You can follow me on Twitter where I post art and memes and other things if you're interested. As always, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.